We're talking about.
He's 6 months old.
Nice.
Risk to early recovery as we begin the assessment stuff. And these things you need to be aware of from the very start. These things, as we've talked about, and we started last time, I want to make sure and cover this stuff that you guys understand this. This, all this stuff you need. This is thinking on your feet stuff, being aware of this stuff, looking at this stuff, being aware of this in a way that you can help this client with this stuff. Some of these very severe, sometimes risks to early recovery. Now, I know we talked about Wednesday. I just want to review real quick as we continue with this list. Somebody tell me, what were the 2-level fears? What was level 1 fear?
Withdrawal syndrome.
Pardon me?
Floaty things.
The floating things. And what was that? What was the number 1? What was number 1?
Failure?
Oh, your drug.
The drug.
Oh, duh.
The drug. First of all,
Sorry.
the terror of letting go of the drug or whatever it is in the first place. That individual who right now, they can't imagine getting out of bed and just anything in the morning, let alone negotiating a day without their drug. They're terrified of that. And again, that drug, you know, sometimes when we hear a person's, that drug, my lover, my this, my that, my best friend, my this, I mean, they have established a relationship with that drug. That is powerful in terms of their way of feeling. A sense of completeness in their life at that point. Does that make sense? They feel incomplete without it. Not even so much, sometimes anymore, the effect of the drug. Think about this. Sometimes by now, depending on this person's addiction history by now, with tolerance and stuff like that, the drug's not even really having all that much of an effect. It's kind of like when we said with this, with the hedonic calculus. With the hedonic calculus, once again. How it looks crazy. We're paying this price for this. And the thing that really is crazy is that it's not even, at some point, it's not even that much fun anymore. With tolerance and stuff like that, those effects are reducing to the fact that it's not even feeling all that much great anymore if they're still paying that price. Gang, with this, sometimes, yeah, it's not even so much the effect of the drug, it's that just having that sense of it's there. It's there kind of a thing. Do you see what I'm saying? That relationship with that thing, it's there. That drug kind of a thing like that. And that person's terrified of that. As a matter of fact, that brought us to another kind of a sidebar with this on Wednesday. And what was that? And I'm going to give you a hint. It can feel so antithesis to other counselors or people in general.
Grief.
What did I say? That client needs to be able to what?
Grieve.
Grieve the loss of that. Doesn't that sound crazy? Think about that for a grieve the loss of that. They should be happy that drug is gone. What the fuck do you want them to grieve that? Gang, reality is reality. This person needs to be able to put a sense of closure on this relationship. Does that make sense? They have it. This has been a major part of their life. And again, you know, this person, however, whatever verbiage they use to describe that, my best friend, my lover, and gang, you know what? That drug is hitting some of the same parts of the brain that are involved in love, friendship, sex, and things like that. So hitting the same parts of the brain. And so the thing is, yeah, it feels like that to that person. That first fear, it's a terrifying thing for that person. And not everybody, don't forget, there is no universal truth for anything. But that client, you have to be aware. And their ability to feel okay. I'm afraid of letting go of this. What the hell do you mean you're afraid of letting go of that, you damn fool? You should be glad you're letting go. Gang, stop it. You see what I'm saying with it? Let that client work that through. Talk about it. Let them grieve that. Let them work with. Does that make sense? Do you see what I'm saying? And what are we talking about here? Long-term, robust recovery. Anybody can, oh, fuck that shit, and throw it, and walk away. That's fine. A week later, they're like, oh, fuck, I hadn't thrown that away. Now I got to get more. You see what I'm saying? That kind of a thing like that. No, gang. A true, real change in that person's life. They're going to do this, and these are things, and this is a major threat to early recovery. Let that client talk about it, work it through, grieve that loss, put closure on that relationship. Does that make sense? That's so very important to you guys. You get this. You see what I'm saying with this? And I know on the surface that sounds antithesis on what do you mean grieve the loss of their drug? They should be glad it's gone. I know. But let's get real here. You see what I'm saying with that? And then what was that second level? The floating thing.
Addiction survival persona.
What was that so powerful? Guys, the addiction survival persona. The addiction survival persona. So, gang, this person has learned how to be who he or she needs to be in their addiction. How do I survive this? How do I do and do well the things I need to do in order to maintain this lifestyle, this supply of drug, this, you see what I'm saying? And get away with all this shit and everything else. They get really good at that stuff. I mean, think about it again. Maybe you were there yourself. How the hell does somebody get 30, 40 or more controlled pills a day? I'm not talking about for a weekend they're going to have a party. Every day. They're finding, they figure, how do you do that? You got to be good at stuff, don't you? You got to get pretty good at some stuff in order to do that. You see what I'm saying? And that's not just, that becomes a part of who this person is. And very often what happens is that we throw a person in treatment and we sing Kumbaya and we chant the 12 steps and we help this person declare publicly in front of their peers how many different ways they're a big asshole and how they're going to not do this anymore and they're going to do their amends and stuff. And no drugs. And then at the end of whatever prescribed a period of time this treatment was, we give them a big hug and say, good work, have a good recovery. And they walk out that door. And the only thing they have done is stopped using drugs right now. They walk out that door with that whole still, who are they? What's inside them? The addiction survival persona. And gang, if a person, think about it. You walk into recovery, and you're still in the midst of that addiction survival persona. You're still relating to life, relating to people, looking at things, feeling about things through the eyes of addiction survival. It's going to be a hell of a lot tougher. Recovery survival is different from addiction survival. We need to address that and help that person exchange their recovery or their addiction survival persona for their recovery survival persona. Does that make sense? So then they walk out there. They're dealing with stuff. They're relating to things. Good, bad, fun, happy, this, that, sad, this, everything. Through the eyes of recovery, not addiction survival. Does that make sense? And gang, in the beginning, that person's going to be terrified of letting go of that stuff. They're good at this. They're real good at this. Hell, I'm so good at stuff, I don't have to steal your purse anymore. By the time I'm done with it, you're insisting I take it. You see what I'm saying? That's how good I am. And you see what I'm saying with this stuff? And you know what? That's kind of cool. Boy, everybody likes to feel good about something. You know what I'm saying with that? All that kind of stuff, you guys. Everybody likes to feel good about how they can do something, whatever it is. Everybody likes it. You know what I'm saying? That kind of, and that scares that person. They feel vulnerable, weak, without that. I'm going to be a big wimp. I'm going to be you see what I'm saying? Those kinds of things. Whatever it may be. And you have to help this person. Give them permission to talk about this and talk about their fears and talk about how. I'm going to be a big fucking wimp now. Yeah, that was cool. Son of a bitch, don't fuck with me. Now I got to change on. You see what I'm saying with that? It feels vulnerable, weak, weird, different. And that person, let them acknowledge that. Let them talk about that. Let them deal with that fear. Because that kind of a fear is going to be what? A use cue association. You see what I'm saying with this? Those fears. That fear, that other thing. Again, yes, the fear. The fear of failure. When that idiot moron counselor says you're afraid of success, that's the stupidest damn thing I've ever heard a counselor say. A person's not afraid of success, they are terrified of failure. Do you see what I'm saying? Do you see the difference with that? Those kinds of things like that. And so dealing with these fears, a major threat to early recovery. I know we already talked about this. This stuff is make or break, nuts and bolts from the very beginning. It's very important. So it's okay to talk about it more than once. Hey, somebody tell me about arousal level changes. What was that all about? Somebody tell me. I want to start hearing you guys tell me this stuff.
Isn't that when you basically habituate to your stress level, and now that it's gone, you're like bored?
It's again. Remember what was that? What was that? The what syndrome? What was that called?
Gas.
Staley. General adaptation
adaptations.
syndrome. And again, Staley developed this not to explain anything about addiction or anything like that. What was that? Staley developed that as a way to understand how and why stress makes us physically ill. That kind of a thing. And again, when that stress hits, what? All that body resistance, stress resistance goes up. What is this? Fight or flight. And then, well, why do we have fight or flight? So we have the energy to solve the problem, and then it's supposed to come back down. But under circumstances, life circumstances, situations of ongoing extreme stress, instead of solving problems, there's just more and more and more and more and more and more. You stay at this heightened level of resistance. Guys, you know what? What is that heightened level of resistance? Bottom line is just body chemistry. Nothing happens by magic. The same body chemistry that makes drugs work inside that body. The same stuff, norepinephrine, serotonin, dopamine. It's the same thing that drugs work with. And at some point, you begin to habituate on that heightened level of arousal. Pretty soon, this heightened level of arousal starts to feel normal. The only problem is it's not normal. It is making that body work too hard too long. That individual will start to suffer that stress level wear out kinds of, and don't forget another thing. That level of ongoing stress is also going to loosen up the what? Frontal lobe stop sign. Remember that? Guys, always remember everything. You notice how I sneak shit back up? Never forget anything here, you guys. Never forget anything. Don't forget that level of that heightened level. Stress. Among other things. Yeah, I'm starting to get tired. Yeah, I'm starting. Now I got a new aching pain I get to use meds for. You see? Now I got this, now I got that. On top of everything else, I was loosening up that stop sign, so I'm making less and less good decisions anyway. You see what I'm saying with that? All that stuff together, you guys. So it's not good, but it begins to feel normal to that person. And then somewhere, whether they or somebody else decides for them, they jump into recovery and come back down here where the rest of us are and feel good and serenity prayer and everything like that. My problem is at that point, coming down here now feels very bad to that person. Feels very weird, foreign. And several of you gave examples of that last time. It's just all down here now is weird. You've got to be down here. This is where recovery is, down here. That's scary to that person. And gang, they're going to be motivated to get back up here. Now what's going to be one of the quickest, easiest ways to get back up here? Use again. Relapse. What was that? What was the implication? You help this client understand this stuff. All this stuff, gang, you need to know that. You don't need to know this for a damn test. You need to know this for the sake of your client. Do you understand what I'm saying with that? Yes.
On that arousal level changes, if a person gets up there but they still are functioning alcoholic, he goes to work, get him a beer in the morning just to get him started, he goes to work, does a perfect job, he's A1 on the job, but he's still a functioning alcoholic. He's doing his job, but when he gets home, he drinks. He can still wake up the next morning and go to his job. If his arousal level, if he's so up here, but he's still able to be normal like me.
Then your question is?
It's working for him.
And then your question is?
What do you do?
Nothing. If there's no problem, you don't fix something that's not a problem.
Right.
Why is he in your treatment center right now? There must be a problem. See what I'm saying?
Maybe just asking a question, how can I slow
Well,
down?
maybe.
I don't think that I've got a problem.
Why is he's coming to your drug and alcohol treatment center to ask you how come he's not sleeping? He's there because he's got a drug and alcohol problem, probably.
Right.
There is a problem there. And the thing is that this, and by the way, there's no official term. That's not an official term, functional alcoholic. That's just a convenient way that we talk about that.
Right.
First of all, if everything is so happy rosy for this guy, what the hell is he doing in this treatment center? Why is he at this? You see what I'm saying?
Right.
So there probably is a problem, first of all. The second thing is that at some point, this is going to catch up with that person. At some point, it's going to. I mean, you can only, so long at this heightened level, physiologically, psychologically, emotionally, that frontal lobe stop sign, any of that. And there are plenty of people. But you know what? If they're functioning, their life is fine and hunky-dory, they're drinking whatever amount a day. They got no problems, and well then, how do you fix that? You don't. What's wrong? There's no problem. But we're not talking about that. We're talking about that person in our treatment center.
Treatment center, okay.
They do have a problem. That's why they're in our treatment center. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And so with that, this is going to be a major threat to their early recovery. It doesn't feel good back down here anymore. It feels awful sometimes for that person. Another thing they'll do. That's why, there was an old joke one time, that person, they cleaned up, they started going to AA meetings, and they got home, and the wife at first was happy as hell, and then this guy, everything. There was one problem after another, and bitching about this, and hollering about that, and this and that, and everything. I liked you better when you were an alcoholic, you damn fool. Quit going to those meetings.
Yep.
What was that person doing? They were down here, and it felt like hell, so what were they doing? They were trying to kick up some dust and get themselves back up somewhere. Another convenient way. Be an asshole. If every day constantly got a problem with this, got a problem with that, got a problem with this, got a problem with that,
I think I might be
keep it up
guilty
here
of
a little
that.
bit. You see what I'm saying? And you'll see that. My problem is, all those little problems now, pretty soon they all add up to use-cue associations. You see what I'm saying with this stuff, you guys? And help it. Why? I'm so irritable now. Well, that's because you're supposed to
Maybe
do it
guilty
all.
of
It
that
could be.
behavior as well.
But it also could be you can't stand feeling this level of resistance anymore. You want back up here. What was the very important issue with that? Well, this is where they feel now. This is where we think they should be. Probably we're not. There's a good chance they're never going to be okay down here anymore. What's our task? Help them find their new level. That kind of a thing like that. Does this all make sense, you guys?
Yeah,
I just can't figure out how you do that.
I really hate that you. I just had a really big eye-opening experience.
What's that? You hate how I
just had we were just kind of side chatting.
About how that's awesome.
I do that. I will pick with my wife if I'm bored, and I don't need to pick with her like that for
What are you
that.
doing?
But I'm doing it because I'm like, oh
You're
God,
here, and your brain says, I want to get up here.
Damn it.
Well, what's one good way to do it? Pick a fight. What a wonderful, convenient way.
now I got
get it.
something to work on.
I
Huh?
always get pissed off about stupid bullshit at work that
Yeah.
doesn't really matter. And then all my problems got solved, right? My stupid co-teacher bitch left. And I didn't know what to do.
See?
But I got a new problem now. So.
And so, and you'll see that. And early recovery, sometimes, and not everybody, guys, don't worry, but this, you've got to be ready with this stuff. Really, are you ready, aware of this, and ready to see it, identify it when it's there? And that individual, early recovery, and all of a sudden they're pissed off, mad, this, that, or anything else, or whatever, the high emotionality and things. Well, that could be post-acute withdrawal, but it also could be some of this stuff here. You see what I'm saying?
So, but how do you fix that? Because I know that if I go to AA, they're going to be like, were you praying about it? And I'm going to have to get all pissed
I
off.
feel like the first step is awareness. I didn't even.
I'm
feel like
super aware.
I can put a name on it now.
One step
Like,
of awareness, and then this is where, once again, how can I help this person? They're still up here. This is what now feels normal to them. The world thinks they should be down here. We're going to be lucky if we get them here. Well, how do we help this person find ways to arouse itself up to here without causing trouble or using and things like that? What new interests and what new this? This is where recreational kinds of therapy stuff and, whatever. What are you going to do? Very often what you'll see is people that get off stimulant drugs. What do they end up doing? Taking up high-risk hobbies, like jumping out of airplanes or things like that. What are they? They're still what? Doing the same thing that cocaine is. Jack that Jack those neurochemicals up. You see what I'm saying with that? And so help this person. How can they? They're not. They're just not going to feel good down here anymore. They you know, once Paris, you'll never go back. But can we at least get them some? This is probably not going to be good for them in the long run. This is never going to be okay anymore. But how can we help them find someplace in the middle now? Does that make sense? Does this make, guys? Do you see this stuff? This is you constantly thinking, knowing, understanding this, being ready to identify this, be aware of this, help that client work through all these different things with this. Who every day we get together realizes every time we get together, counseling is not nearly as easy as you thought it was, is it? This is pretty complicated stuff before it's over with. Hey, well, then we talked about bad timing. What did we say? What was that? Right thing, wrong time, right thing, wrong way, right thing, wrong motivational match, and those kinds of things like that. Bad timing of interventions. What would that be? Doing the right thing at the wrong time, maybe. Too early. Hi, I'm Dan. Welcome to your first day in the treatment center. I'm so glad. Listen, today we're going to talk about what happened to you when you were 3 years old. You see what I'm saying? Probably not a good time to talk about that. You see what I'm saying with that? And knowing how to work with what stuff when is so very important. Those ones and twos. Everybody knows what I mean by a one and a two now, don't they? Those ones and twos. Probably the first day, hi, welcome, let's work on your ones. That's probably not a good idea. Knowing when to do what. Knowing how to. Where is this person? And their readiness, their psychological ability, their physiological ability to work with what level of what kind of stuff at what time. Does that make sense? And when we mistime that stuff, a major, it wasn't that it was the wrong thing, but it was at the wrong time. Does that make sense? Sometimes we do the wrong thing. Because what? We didn't do our assessment right in the first place. We just, that client said one damn sentence and we thought we understood their entire life. Hit them with that label maker and now here's what we're going to work on. You see what I'm, usually wrong intervention is either because you got a real dumbass counselor or it's somebody that's just working on the wrong stuff. And if they're working on the wrong stuff, it's a wrong intervention. Does that make sense? It may be a really good counselor who did just misjudge their case conceptualization. You guys, your willingness to realize you're not going to be right all the time as counselors. And you're willing. As a matter of fact, your willingness to accept that and even own that with a client. What's a really good thing? If you do make a mistake with some of this stuff and you own that with that client, what's a really good sidebar effect with that? You're teaching your client how to fail, how to fail well, how to be humble. You're teaching that client how to be honest and own shit. Yeah. I mean, don't make a mistake on purpose just so you get to do that. But if you do make a mistake, and sometimes wrong intervention. And remember, what did we say? There are four. What is that? Right thing for right reasons. Right thing for wrong reasons. Wrong thing for right reasons. Wrong thing for wrong reasons. What would this be? Wrong thing, we would hope for right reasons. Wrong thing for right reasons. And very often what that means is you don't know that client well enough. You haven't done your assessment work enough yet. You missed something. You see what I'm saying with this? Now, another kind of wrong intervention is, and this is important, and you've got to be aware of this. Another source of this problem is going to be where you're asking too much of a client. Not everybody that walks in your treatment center is going to be a Rhodes Scholar. You understand what I'm saying with that? And some of these cognitive therapy interventions, RET, RBT, and all the different acronyms for all that stuff. That assumes some level of intellectual cognitive ability to understand what the hell this stuff is about. It can be pretty abstract sometimes and things like that. And so, you know, it may be that, once again, you're asking too much of a client. And maybe it's just that you're asking too much right now in their current condition. A month and a half from now, they're going to be fine and dandy well enough to, but right now they're not. No, this is just too much for their brain. And things like that. Does that make sense? And then that's a wrong intervention kind of a thing also. Being aware. Boy, I'll tell you what, you need to be aware of a whole bunch of stuff all the time, don't you? All this stuff. This is pretty serious shit. And understanding this. Everybody cool with this? Any questions, thoughts? Everybody cool?
Why did you say the right thing for the wrong reason?
We got four: right thing, right reason. Right thing, wrong reason. Wrong thing, right reason. Wrong thing, wrong reason. And we're going to be talking about all four of those different things throughout various discussions. Always keep that little. Of course, always keep, as far as I'm concerned, every damn thing we talk about in this room. Always keep that right there where you need it. Other thoughts, questions?
Could you go back into an intrinsic reward and extrinsic reward?
We're gonna. Yes, I will, sir. I will get back to that.
All right.
What was this thing here? Flight to Cure. What was that all about? Somebody tell me.
Somebody thinks they've got it licked after a week, or they're ready, they're cured, they're
Too
done.
anxious, too much, too fast. Yeah, and they're done. I got it. Thank you so much, counselor. You're the greatest. Thank you, AA. You're the one. This was great. Thank you. I'm ready. I've been. Today is my day 6. I'm ready to become a sponsor. You know that person?
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying with that? And things like this Flight to Cure. Why is that? Why is that? Well, it's pretty obvious why that's a threat to early recovery, isn't it? Do you see what I'm saying with that? And helping. And then what was the conundrum we talked about? This kind of a double-edged. So we gotta slow them down, calm them down, but we don't want to step on them either. You know what I'm saying? We don't want to. How do I help this person slow down without ruining that energy?
I like your energy, but can we talk about this, or?
And yeah, this need to feel better. I'm done. I'm fixed right away. It's obvious how and why that's a threat to early recovery, right?
You ask them how it makes them feel to be so accomplished, right?
Well,
as opposed to you focus on the feel.
This is where I would probably start to do some real, and we're going to talk more about this. I've mentioned it already, but where we're going to probably start to do some Columbo interviewing.
Okay.
What is Columbo interviewing?
Investigate.
What was that? Remember? Well, who remembers Columbo? That TV show.
Vaguely.
And remember, and, the thing about Columbo is, they had all these cop shows and things, and all these whodunits. The thing about Columbo is, you knew who did it at the very start, didn't you? The first scene of the whole hour is whether you see the murder and who did it. So there was no mystery there, but then the whole rest of the hour was about how Columbo, who somehow or another had this figured out, he walks in there with his old raincoat, his old coat, and somehow or another he takes one look around and knows who did it. And then he spends the rest of the hour driving that person nuts. You know what I'm saying? He never gets in the, he did it, I know it. No, as a matter of fact, he pals up with him. Remember all that stuff? It's kind of like he never one time even asked them a direct question about the crime. He just it's very sneaky with that. And gang, very often, when you try it and you have a message you want to deliver to a client, it's the greatest wisdom in the world, but if you give this to that client, they're going to just block that off and they're going to whack that out of the park with all the resistance and everything. You know that. And things like that. Gang, I had a
Excuse me. Thank you.
a woman, and her ticket for therapy, for this counseling session, had nothing to do with drugs. Her ticket was that she was on antidepressant meds, and she wanted to know, because she didn't feel like they were working quite right, she wanted to know, was she on the right meds, was she on the right, all that kind of stuff. And so, okay, we sit down, we get started with that, and then she says, pretty quick, at the beginning of the session, pretty, oh, by the way, I should probably tell you, I smoke marijuana. I smoke a lot of marijuana. I smoke marijuana from the very first breath in the morning to the last breath at night. And I maintain and make sure I'm as high as I can be all day long. I just wanted to let you know that. Now let's talk about why my meds aren't working. Now, first of all, I mean, right there, ding, 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 you damn fool. What the hell you think your meds are? That would be what would make sense here, right?
Right.
What the hell you mean why your meds aren't working, you damn fool? Oh, by the way, she also said this. Not only did she proclaim her marijuana use, but she also said, I'm here to talk about my meds. We will not talk about my marijuana smoking.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to talk about my marijuana smoking. Now, once again, it's you damn fool. This is what we need to talk about, right? That's what common sense would say. Sometimes common sense isn't the best clinical thing. Oh yeah, idiot, now this is what we're going to talk about. You know, this your marijuana. You see what I'm saying?
Uh-huh.
So when she said, I'm not going to talk about my marijuana, what did I say?
Okay.
No problem. Okay, fine. We're here about this antidepressant thing. Colombo interviewing. I knew what I wanted to say to her. But then, what do you... I started to ask the kinds of questions. I established this interaction and started to ask the kinds of questions, one after another, to the extent that pretty soon, the only way she could answer a question was to tell me the very thing I wanted to tell her. Does that make sense?
Yes.
About 30 minutes into this session, she got kind of a quizzical look on her face, and she says, you know what? I said, what's that? I think I gotta quit smoking marijuana. Now, what did I say right there? I said, you think? Now you think? No, is that what I said?
No.
No, I did not. What did I say? Well, that's interesting. Yeah, we can. Do you want to talk about that for a minute? We can go there. We can talk about that if you'd like to talk about that. Sure. You see what I'm saying with this?
Yep.
The difference with Colombo interview. Just, and what is that? Where? You know damn well that what you want to say, but you know damn well that's going to fly right into the face of that wood chipper, and they're going to send that message right out the other end in 1,000 little pieces. We can have a big fight about that, but what the hell's that going to do? I could have fought with her for an hour about that, those kinds of things. But instead, no. Go with that flow. Once again, what we're going to be calling with motivational interviewing, rolling with that resistance. And in about a half hour, she, it's just how I structured this and asked the questions one after another, until it gets to the point where she's telling me what I wanted to say to her. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. A good place for this is with Flight to Cure. Instead of you saying to the client, you need to slow down, wouldn't it be great if you could figure out a way to get that client to say to you, I need to slow down? Mm-hmm. Okay, well, we can talk about that. Sure. You see what I'm saying with that? And that kind of stuff, you guys. Do you see the difference between counseling and just... You see what I'm saying with this? And how you make that kind of stuff work with that. And Flight to Cure would be a good place for that. Because there is, knock it off, slow down, you're going too fast. And, now they're raining on their parade. Now you see, now you're, so it is. Yeah, they're going too fast. It's Flight to Cure. One thing, they get so busy because one direction that flight goes to is what? Help other people International Airport. And now, they got 2 weeks in their own recovery and they're so busy helping everybody else who they stop helping.
Themselves.
Do you see what I'm saying? That kind of stuff like that. No, this is a danger. This is a problem. You gotta get a rope on this one. But it's how you do it. And how do you do it without being discouraging or raining on our parade or anything? Isn't this cool? Yeah, this is great. But at the same time, and maybe if you could, once again, that's why I brought up Colombo interviewing right there. Maybe instead of just slow down, that, how about could you figure out a way to get that client that maybe I should slow down? Do you see what I'm saying? By that Colombo interviewing style. Some of that kind of stuff like that. Questions, thoughts, reactions. Who just learned a new counseling thing? Who just learned? You see what I'm saying with this stuff, you guys? Flight to Cure. Well, this is a big one. External interruptions. And again, what do we, this person, they're a week and a half in recovery, they're doing pretty good and everything else, and all of a sudden, grandma dies. And oh, by the way, grandma was the only one that ever understood me. Oh, but you see what I'm saying? Oh, but I loved grandma. Grandma was, and all of a sudden, grandma drops dead. Whatever it may be, something, this life happens. And what are we talking? Things that become giant, whack in the face, use cue associations. A major threat to early recovery. And so, dealing with that. Helping clients to be able to, early on. Because early on, what is that brain? It's going to be a fireworks show of what? Get the fuck out of here, go get loaded. That's all there is to it. How do you help that brain? Do you see what I'm saying with that? So, external interruptions. The internal, external. What did we say? Somebody tell me, what did we talk about with this? Why are we talking about this again? Who's glad we're talking about this again? You see what I'm saying with this? Because this is pretty... It's good we're talking about it again. What was I talking? Internal, external motivation issues. What was
so
that?
a person.
Whether the addicted client comes to treatment, just as long as they come and get the treatment, but you try to help them as the counselor.
I don't care why they're there.
Right.
Now remember, external. And we external, in other words, doing things for external reasons. Why are you here? I'm here because my wife will divorce me if I don't. I'm here so I can stay out of jail. I'm here so I can keep my job. And there's that counselor still out there to this very day that will say those are the wrong reasons for being here. You gotta be here for yourself, damn it, if you're not here for yourself. And you know, they're kind of right about that, ultimately. They're kind of right about that. They spend 6 months in treatments so their wife won't leave them. They come home and their wife decided to leave them anyway. What often happens to that recovery program? Yeah, the fact is, they're kind of right, but don't sit there and make a big deal about it. I don't give a shit why you're here. You're here, and that's better than not here. Does that make sense? We can deal with it. But then, yeah, at some point we want this to become intrinsic reward, intrinsic, inside that person, value, that kind of a thing. And how do we do that? And this is where what was another sidebar. Be careful how you celebrate success with your client. A client. How'd you doing the last week? I haven't used a drop. I didn't this. Oh, fantastic! Give me a high five and let's hug and let's think away. Oh, this is the greatest thing. All you do is oh, this is so wonderful. It feels like that's what we should do. I mean, for Christ's sake, they haven't had a week clean and sober for 7.5 years, and they got a week. Let's talk. Can I? You see what I'm saying with that? Be careful with that. Don't over celebrate that stuff that way. You're providing too much external reward for what you want to be an internal reward thing. Remember my snow shoveling story? Never forget that snow shoveling story. And what was that? I mean, once again, I was just having the damnedest, greatest time in the world. My parents, and then the neighbor, and then the next neighbor. That third neighbor, though, they called me up there, gave me that quarter, and that was it. Game over. I did the fourth one, no quarter. The hell with this. You see what I'm saying with that? And it's just, never. You want to be careful. I've gone a week drug-free or whatever, and again, they haven't done that in 7.5 years. Acknowledge. But how about this? How does that feel for you inside? How is that going? How does that feel for you? Let that person learn self-congratulations language. Let that person learn how to congratulate them so they don't need too much of that external stuff. You see that's what that was all about, that kind of a thing. Gang, we also see another thing with this that's related to, who's ever heard of Rotter's locus of control? Rotter's locus of control. Anybody? Rotter. And again, this idea, the difference between people who believe their life, their decisions, their destiny are under the control of external versus under the control of internal stuff. Do you see what I'm saying? And very often, when we have our clients are going to have a very strong external locus of control. In other words, how I'm feeling is dependent on other people. How my life is going is dependent on the decisions of others. And gang, that external locus of control can real quick and easy turn into a victim story, can't it? Do you see what I'm saying with that? The victim role, the victim, how things are going for me is because of them. They hit those external kinds of things, and we want that person to start to develop. So you're listening for this. Listen for external locus language. How often, when this person's talking about themselves, their situations, their ways and means and wants and whys, are they and theming? Do you see what I'm saying with that? You want this person, at some point, they need you. That's a major message in AA and everything else, isn't it? You're in charge here. That kind of a thing. You're in charge. But they listen for external locus language. Because you're going to want to help them. And it's not like, stop it, quit saying it. You're just going to what? Once again, I noticed that Wonder and Colombo interview kind of just helped them change that language to internal locus language. Does that make sense? So this person, that they have this internal sense of locus of control. I'm in charge of how I feel. I mean, don't forget what a wonderful use cue. You just looked at me like that. You made me feel bad. Now I get to go use. It's not my fault. You made me do this, you see. Yeah. That external locus of control. Versus that. And we want that client to have that internal. Internal, again, intrinsic reward system. Internal locus of control. Moving this into that person. You see what I'm saying with that? Do you notice something when we talked about the test again earlier? And we started talking about this stuff. What did I say? You need to know this. I don't give a shit about the number on the top of a piece of paper. What do I want to know in your summary? How are you internalizing this? Making this inside you. Does that make sense? How are you going to make this go on inside? And that's how do you help that client make recovery go on inside them? Does that make sense? That kind of a thing like that. An internal, external. Did you have a specific question about that? Because you had mentioned you wanted to make sure I did review that.
Yeah, I got it. I was making sure it was the same.
Cool, good, fantastic. Any other thoughts, questions, reactions with that? This is a big one, you guys. Heaven's reward fallacy. Has anybody ever heard of that? What is that? This is a big one, you guys. The idea, this person, they, again, whatever level, mixed kind, type of addiction, and addiction lifestyle, and everything else they were a part of, they made that decision. I'm going to make that phone call, I'm going to talk to that guy, I'm going to go to that meeting, or whatever. They start, and very early on, and they start doing recovery stuff, and damn it, I'm doing the right thing now, and so I deserve to have good things happen to me because of it. You see what I'm saying? This kind of heaven, we call it the heaven reward fallacy. In other words, I'm doing the right things now, so I damn well better have right things happen. Including, honey, you better forgive me and let go of everything and forget the whole past and start right this very second because I'm doing the right thing, damn it, you bet. You see what I'm saying with that? That kind of stuff like that. How dare that power company, they're still sending me dirty letters over the 6 months worth of electric bills I still, how dare they? They should understand I'm in recovery now. You see what I'm saying with that? Huh?
Bullshit.
But you,
It's a good attitude that I had for a long time.
was that heaven reward fallacy kind of?
I'm doing right,
There you go. That now you got a name for it. Because, and do you see how that can be a powerful threat to early recovery for somebody? It's kind of like it ain't all working out, so fuck this.
That's exactly what I did. I said, fuck this and go back to the way I did.
You need to listen for this language from your client. Listen for that language, and then you need to get on top of that one fast, because that could be a biggie, can it?
Mm-hmm.
Is heaven reward fallacy? Has anybody ever heard of that before? And gang, you listen real careful for that heaven reward kind of language. I'm doing the right thing now, so everything better happen right for me. And you better fucking, you know what, forgive me. Everything, it's done. Clean slate right now. Oh, by the way, I hope that bruise on your face where I kicked you last week when I was drunk, I hope that goes away pretty quick, but you better forgive everything right now because I'm doing the right thing now. You see what I'm saying with that kind of stuff? All that, you guys. All that. And this person. And they'll become very intolerant of that then. Things aren't going right. This isn't going right. So, this is a real dangerous one early on. Help people understand that. This is where one of the things is where you remember when we talked about way back, boy, I speaking another oldie but goldie in where I said, never promise that client something you can't keep. Here's how good your life will be when you stop using. How the hell do you know how good their life is going to be? So one way to help with heaven's reward fallacy is don't set them up for that kind of stuff yourself in the first place. Does that make sense? That kind of stuff. Head that one off at the pass, you guys, quick, because that can be a real toxic kind of energy going on in that person.
Doesn't that tie into the external motivation issues?
Could be, yeah. Secondary gain stuff, things like that, certainly.
You hear it a lot, like in the women in recovery. They're like, well, my family still won't talk to me, so like, what's the point? And
Yeah,
I'm like, well, oh, all right.
Yeah.
I don't know.
There you go, heaven reward fallacy. Yeah, I've gone 2 days now without a drink. Everybody should forgive and forget right now.
Mm-hmm.
And welcome in. You see that kind of stuff? And they're not, so fuck this. You see how that works? And it's powerful. Listen, careful. Listen for that language. And get on top of that fast with that client. Because this is a real, this can get real toxic real fast.
Doesn't that even go deeper though? Like, if someone's so concerned about the way their family feels or the way their family, like my family won't talk to me, but I'm doing the right thing, shouldn't they be like looking more towards like, sorry, I'm in the middle of a thought process. Like, so it's the way they see themselves is all the way down here. Like, the opinion of the family is here,
Right.
but we need to have your motivation be here as well, because you should care enough about yourself to begin with that you should come first.
And
as
that
opposed
would be.
to,
Can I say good point, nice issue, wrong time to worry about that. That's going to be that would be, yeah, that's going to be. Right now, though, that doesn't matter. Right now, they're just stuck in this thing because they have this, they're longing for this. Right now, feel good, feel better, everything fixed right now. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
You got a flat tire on the side of the road on a snowy night. You don't want to sit there and talk to the tire for 6 hours about the fucking thing. You want to get it fixed and get going again.
right.
And so right now, all that stuff, important stuff later on when this person gets those kinds of things in line.
Yeah.
But right now, you know what? Just listen for that language and head that off with that. Help them understand.
But I guess what I'm saying is, if you hear that language, is that an indicator to you that later
Yes.
you need to, okay.
Very much could be. Yes,
Okay.
absolutely. That kind of a thing. Hey, just help that person see how that's working as they wait. Because guess what that person's looking for more than anything else in the world right now? Not because they're bad, not because they don't want to get better, not because they were just blowing smoke and they don't give it, no. But they are terrified. Remember? The fear, terrified. They are terrified of this. What is this person looking for right now?
Validation.
Just one itty bitty good
Reason
excuse
to-
to get the fuck out of this recovery thing as quick as I can.
Mm-hmm.
You see what I'm saying with that? One excuse is all it's gonna take. One little thing. This is scaring the hell out of me. One little is all I need. And that heaven reward fallacy stuff fits into that just so wonderful. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
What if that person just wants some validation?
Well,
Okay, tell them, okay,
well, certainly all that. Again, watching out for over celebrating.
right, fully celebrating.
But no, but wanting validation. What we're talking about here is that again, that thing of that unrealistic,
I deserve
that
something
irrational demand that everything be okay now.
Right.
Isn't it fair to say though that at some point you can exhaust efforts, and if that person really just isn't ready, there's nothing you can do to stop them
Well, any of
from
this
finding
stuff-
an excuse. I mean,
Well, certainly any of this kind of stuff. At some point, you're right.
yeah.
Any of this stuff.
Okay.
The approach avoidance conflict. Let's take a quick little break and then we'll get back and look at that.